Today we're diving deeper into the hidden mechanisms that are silently shaping your every decision, every belief in ways you might never realize. Do you think you're truly free to make all your choices, or that you always see objective truth? Be careful, because the moment you feel most confident, that's when your brain is most susceptible to being hacked. Today we're exposing 7 invisible psychological effects, the thought viruses spreading through your life, making you see the world in a shockingly distorted way. Number 7. The spotlight effect. Do you remember that time you made a tiny mistake, like accidentally calling someone the wrong name or getting a small stain on your shirt, and you felt like the entire world was staring at you, judging your every move? Welcome to the spotlight effect. Why do you feel like you're constantly on a grand stage? Our brains have a tendency to believe we're the center of everyone else's universe, that people are paying hundreds of times more attention to our actions, appearance, and mistakes than they actually are. For instance, you trip slightly at the supermarket, or you have a tiny smudge of toothpaste on your shirt. For the rest of the day, you're convinced every eye is on you. People are secretly laughing, pointing. But the harsh truth is, most people are far too busy with their own show to care about yours. The cashier probably didn't even notice the colour of your shoes, let alone a tiny stain. This feeling of being under scrutiny creates an enormous amount of unnecessary social anxiety. You self-censor your words, your actions, all because of the fear of a fleeting glance that in reality, no one even noticed. So how do you escape this imaginary spotlight? Try a small experiment. Next time you feel like you're the centre of attention, ask yourself, if this happened to someone else, would I really remember it? Would I even care? Most often the answer is no. Free yourself from that imaginary spotlight, and you'll find yourself feeling so much more liberated. Number 6, survivorship bias. Next, let's explore an effect that makes you perceive success in an incredibly distorted way: survivorship bias. Have you ever noticed that when we want to learn about success, we almost always focus on those who survived, those who reached the top? We interview billionaires, analyze the habits of wildly successful people. So how does it trick you? When you only look at the successful people, you completely overlook the millions of others who failed on similar paths. You don't see the hardships, the mistakes, or even the pure luck that helped those survivors make it through. A classic example: during World War II, scientists studied planes that returned from battle to reinforce them. Initially, they planned to fortify the areas with the most bullet holes, but a statistician famously pointed out, no, you should reinforce the areas where there are no bullet holes on the returned planes. Why? Because the planes hit in those critical areas never made it back. This leads to serious faulty conclusions. You might think, if they can do it, so can I. You copy their formula, but ignore the hundreds of factors that led millions of others to fail. The harsh reality is, many secrets to success are just stories told by the lucky survivors, not guaranteed formulas. You don't see the graveyard of similar ideas that failed. So how do you avoid this trap? Seek out the stories of failure too. Ask, what did the unsuccessful people do? What were the real risks? Don't just learn from the winners. Learn from those who stumbled to truly understand the path to success. Number 5. Illusory correlation, conspiracy effect. Now let's decipher one of the thought viruses that fills the world with unbelievable stories. Illusory correlation, also known as the conspiracy effect. Have you ever seen 2 completely random events happen close together, and your brain automatically creates a mysterious connection between them? Like, every time I wear my blue shirt, it rains. Or, I just thought of someone and they called me right away. Why does your brain fabricate these connections? The human brain hates randomness. It craves patterns, order, and meaning in everything. When there's no clear connection, it will simply invent one. This is fertile ground for conspiracy theories to flourish. From believing governments are hiding aliens to vaccines containing microchips, it all stems from this terrifying ability of the brain connecting unrelated dots to create a story that makes sense to it. You see a news report about a financial scandal, then read an article about a secret society. Immediately your brain paints a bigger picture. Aha! There must be a hidden hand at play here. even with no evidence. So how do you escape this labyrinth? Always ask, is there real evidence for this connection? Or am I just imagining it? Don't let your brain turn random coincidences into non-existent conspiracies or secrets. Trust science, trust evidence. Don't trust the narratives. Your brain invents just to satisfy its need for meaning. Number 4, the anchoring effect. Now prepare to be stunned by how your brain gets tricked in almost every transaction. The anchoring effect. Have you noticed that when you're shopping, the first number you see, no matter how illogical it might seem, can tremendously influence how you value an item? How does it anchor your decisions? Our brains tend to rely heavily on the very first piece of information, the anchor it receives when making a decision, especially when facing uncertainty. Even if you know the number is unreasonable, it still serves as a reference point in your mind. For example, you walk into a store and see a shirt listed for $200. You think, wow, that's expensive. But then the salesperson says, today we have a 50% discount. It's only $100. Immediately $100 suddenly seems incredibly attractive and like a deal. Even though you never intended to spend that much on a shirt, that initial $200 price point already anchored your perception. This effect is cleverly used by marketers, negotiators, and even politicians. They throw out an outrageously high anchor number, then the actual number appears to be a bargain even if it's still high. The secret to not being caught by the anchor. Always question the first number you see. Do your own research, compare with other options, and don't let the emotion of getting a good deal override your logic. Be a smart consumer, not prey to invisible anchors. Number 3, confirmation bias. First, let's talk about the intellectual trap almost all of us fall into. Confirmation bias. Have you ever noticed that when you believe something, even something small like drinking black coffee helps me work better, your brain automatically searches for accepts and remembers all information that confirms it's true. You even ignore, dismiss, or twist contradictory evidence. It's like you're searching Google, but you only click on results that tell you what you want to hear. Why does it trick us? Because the brain loves consistency. It hates being challenged. It feels safe when what you believe is true. That feeling of, aha, I was right, is addictive. For example, you're a hardcore K-pop fan. No matter what negative rumors surface about your idol, your brain will immediately seek out positive articles and comments to debunk the rumors or interpret them in a way that favors your idol. Conversely, if someone presents unfavorable evidence, you might instantly dismiss it. Fake news. Anti-fans are trying to smear them. Because you want to believe what you already believe. And then what happens? You become stubborn, resistant to changing your mind, and sometimes extremely close-minded. You're not searching for truth, you're searching for confirmation of what you already believe. But here's the naked truth. Believing you're always right can make you miss out on incredible opportunities to learn and grow. Don't let your brain build an invisible wall that prevents you from receiving multifaceted truths. Number 2, the reactance rebel effect. Next up, let's talk about the rebel instinct hidden deep within each of us. The reactance effect. Have you ever noticed? When someone tells you, don't do that, or you're not allowed to, a fire suddenly ignites within you, making you want to do it more than ever. What's really happening in your brain? It hates being controlled. It perceives prohibitions as a direct threat to your freedom and autonomy. That feeling of having choices taken away triggers a primal instinct to fight back and regain control. For example, your parents forbid you from playing video games for more than 2 hours a day. Even though you used to play only 1 hour now, you suddenly want to play for 3 to 4 hours just to prove you're not controlled. Or when you see a "do not walk on the grass" sign in a park, even if you had no intention of walking on it, a sudden urge arises in your mind. Let's see if I will. This rebellion can be harmless, but sometimes it leads you to make unwise decisions just to prove you have the right to choose. So what's the secret? When you feel that rebel instinct rising, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, am I genuinely wanting to do this? Or am I just reacting to perceived control? Don't let that rule-breaking instinct lead you astray from what's genuinely good for you. Number 1, the primacy effect. Finally, but certainly not least, one of the most silent yet powerful players shaping how you evaluate everything: the primacy effect. Have you ever noticed how the very first information you receive about a person, a product, or an idea has an incredibly powerful impact on shaping your entire perception of it, no matter how much new information comes later? Why does your brain prioritize the first thing so much? Because the brain wants to process information as efficiently as possible. The initial information is often encoded and analysed more thoroughly, forming a strong reference frame against which all subsequent information will be compared. For example, you meet someone for the first time. They are neatly dressed, speak charmingly, and give a warm smile. Immediately you form a positive first impression of them. Later, even if you hear a few negative remarks about that person, you still tend to think, they must be misunderstood. I thought they were good. Conversely, if the first impression is of someone messy and abrupt, then no matter how hard they try later, it will be difficult for you to erase that initial negative mark. This effect is applied incredibly widely. In advertising, it's why the first taglines, the opening visuals, are so crucial. In job interviews, the interviewer's impression from the very first few minutes can decide your fate. So how can you leverage or counter it? As someone making an impression, prepare meticulously for your debut. As someone receiving information, learn to keep an open mind ready to adjust your initial judgment as more information becomes available. Don't let a first glance completely manipulate your judgment of a person or an issue. You see, our brains are phenomenal machines, but also full of invisible loopholes that are shaping everything you think and do. Awareness is power. When you understand these tricks, you'll gain control, hacking your own brain to live a more authentic life. Have you ever experienced any of these effects? Share your story in the comments. If this video opened your eyes, hit like, share to spread this knowledge, and subscribe now so you don't miss our next mind-hacking discoveries.